job numbers for September were released. We are still waiting for job numbers for October, and they're not going to release those until next month, which means that it's going to be after the Federal Reserve meets for potential rate cuts. Now, they have signaled, as far as I know, the Federal Reserve has signaled that they may not be cutting rates. People were anticipating it. That's supposedly why the stock markets went down yesterday. The hiring in September was higher than people had imagined. I think people were anticipating that there would be 71,000 or I should say closer to like 60,000 jobs in September. We have averaged 71,000 jobs for 2025 at this point. And you should be aware that just population growth means that we're actually shedding jobs in those instances. 119,000 jobs in September. However, numbers for the previous 2 months in July and August were recalculated down 33,000 jobs. Now, we were told by the Trump administration that is indication of like some type of shenanigans. It's not.
Right.
We've explained this in the past that you get estimates for the first initial job numbers, and they get readjusted as you go forward. This is to give people a sense of where the economy is at any given time. However, the 119 was better than thought. And again, it's quite possible those will get revised down as we go further on into the year. But those jobs came from largely the healthcare industry and bars and restaurants, adding 37,000 jobs, 43,000 for the healthcare industry. And we have talked about this in the past, that the economy right now, and I think largely because of wealth disparity, and which is also sort of like somewhat tracking to age to some extent, but the wealth disparity is off the charts. The problem is that two sectors gaining jobs and everywhere else basically not shedding jobs, net anyways, is a problem. Transportation and warehousing lost 25,000 jobs. Manufacturing lost 6,000 jobs. Temporary help services lost 16,000 jobs. And the reason why that's problematic is if your business is building, the first thing you do, not always, but what businesses tend to do is they'll hire temp jobs before they make these full-time jobs because they're expanding. If they're shedding those, that means that they are contracting. That sector is now as small as it's been since 2012. So what we're really getting from this is a sense that things are beginning to decline, except for areas where people age. So there's going to be more healthcare jobs. And bars and restaurants may be expanding a little bit, could be seasonal. But again, these are not necessarily, these can be indicative of these two sort of dual tracks of the economy that are taking place. It is, again, the equivalent of like if you use average, if you have two people in a room and you want to get a sense of like how wealthy are they, if you use average, it's a problem as a metric because I could be in a room with Bill Gates and we would both look like billionaires if we look at the average. The problem is that many of our economic indicators, GDP and others, are being buoyed by really, really wealthy people spending ungodly amounts of money, but it's not necessarily indicative of what's and that money gets getting just churned within a very narrow band of our population. And so it's a problem. UPS, Amazon have started to shed jobs and are replacing them with AI or with robots, or just pulling back because their business is not as big. Job openings, as measured by the job search website Indeed, which of course, is again, take it with a grain of salt. We just don't have the data, have reached their lowest level in 4 years. So 4 years ago was we were still sort of like coming out of COVID. I should also just make a little note. When I say that, I'm not talking about the existence of the virus. What I am talking about is the shutdown. I mentioned this the other day in the context of education, and someone was sent an email, said they were upset because I was ignoring the fact that COVID's still around and the implications of long COVID here. What I was talking about specifically was there was an extended period of time where a lot of students were out of class, and it obviously hurt them. You're not sitting in class. And so I was talking about that. The unemployment rate for workers between ages 20 and 24 is 9.2%, the highest it's been since 2015. Across all age groups, the number of people working part-time who would rather work full-time has been drifting up. There's a lot of concern in these numbers. The problem is, I think that investors are also convinced that inflation is going to be a problem. And so the Fed is sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
Their job is to try and shore up employment numbers, but also to contain inflation. And
it looks like we are in prime conditions for stagflation as well, which is what they're concerned about. And the fact that in terms of we played to start the show yesterday, Trump once again musing about wanting to fire Jerome Powell because he's maybe considering not lowering rates in this upcoming meeting, which might be today. In part of the problem is that because the administration, because of these jobs numbers being withheld for a while, they don't have the information necessary also to understand the full economic picture.
Here is Fox News reporting on what these economic woes are doing to Donald Trump's numbers. This is Fox News, folks. And so just so you know, it's very hard for these bad numbers to, it's rare when Fox will report this type of stuff.
And they couch it even a little here, I feel like.
But the issue of affordability, the issue of how people feel about the economy popping up in our latest polls, the personal financial situation now, excellent, good, 40%, only fair or poor, 60%. You can see that changing from July. Condition of the U.S. economy, also a perception totally upside down, 76 to 25, and that changing a bit. And then economic conditions for the nation and you personally, again, 25% positive, 76 negative for the nation.
Pause it for a second. Now, this is really interesting because a lot of times you will see a much greater disparity between what people think it is for the nation, what it is personally. Mm-hmm. In fact, a year ago, I'm quite convinced that these numbers, there would be far greater disparity. Never mind the positive negative, differential, which I think would have been somewhat similar in 2024. But the difference between this is impacting me negatively personally versus this is impacting the nation negatively was far greater than 16 points. People generally, they'll see, and what's also surprising about this, or I should say maybe perhaps not unsurprising, is that we have not seen the blitzkrieg of media attention on the economy like we did in the run-up to the 2024 election. Now, part of that is because it's a run up to an election,
Right.
and it becomes much more salient. But we have not heard as much about the stumbling in the economy as we did then. And so people are just talking about what they are actually feeling. 60% of the country is personally saying that things are negative, and then they're looking around at their friends or what meager amounts of news media coverage they're seeing about the economy and going like, ooh. So this is pretty damaging stuff.
It is the lowest approval that Trump has ever had on the economy ever recorded in this Fox poll, 38%.
And just this, unlike other things on what's your opinion, how economic conditions are for the nation is an opinion more often than not. But how it's impacting you personally is an indication of not just like what your opinion is, but
Right.
what your material situation feels like. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.